Suave, smooth, and debonair, Rex Harrison was a man of many masks. He thrilled audiences in roles as diverse as Henry Higgins, the King of Siam, Julius Caesar, and Dr. Dolittle. A versatile actor with powerful charisma, he transferred from the sweat and toil of the London stage to Hollywood, a place where he lived in near constant conflict with the media and studios. Sexy Rexy, as he was reluctantly known, was also a husband to 6 women during his long life. However, it was his brief encounter with the woman he refused to marry that led to a death, the destruction of his reputation, and one of Hollywood's most enduringly enigmatic and shady tragedies. Welcome to Hollywood Mysteries. Reginald Carey Harrison was born on March 5, 1908, in Huyton, Lancashire, a village that is now part of Liverpool in northwestern England. He was the youngest of 3 siblings, following 2 sisters. Reginald had striking blue eyes and dark hair, and he was born to Edith Carey and William Reginald Harrison. His father had trained as an engineer, but as Reginald later recounted, I can't remember what he ultimately did, but whatever he did it on the Liverpool-Manchester Stock Exchange. Reginald's mother was believed to be related to the famous 19th century Shakespearean actor, Edmund Kean, and she also came from a lineage of clergymen. His father's family was reputed to have been quite wealthy in the past, with the family crest that featured the motto, Courage sans peur, or Courage without fear, and an estate known as Belle Vale, which eventually became a jelly factory. By the time Reginald was born, the family's legacy had dwindled, leaving only the motto behind. He instead grew up in a regular middle-class life. Reginald had health problems as a child. In 1956, he explained, "Nobody could guess what was the matter with me, but it passed. Some years ago, a calcified gland was found in my intestines. Apparently, I had had tuberculosis of the intestines, which cured itself. A serious case of measles resulted in a loss of vision in one eye, which hindered his ability to learn to read, while most boys his age had already mastered it. Despite his health issues, he was a happy child. He had a particularly close bond with his mother, who was also his primary caregiver. On the other hand, he did not have a strong relationship with his father, whose cold Victorian manners drove a wedge between them. When Reginald turned 8, his parents took him to the theater for the first time. This experience fascinated him, and he soon turned his bed into a stage, using an old blanket as a curtain. At the age of 10, Reginald was enrolled at Birkdale Preparatory School in Derbyshire. He later described himself as unbright, dull, and good at nothing except a bit of cricket. By this time, he had earned the nickname Rex. His involvement in school plays opened up a new world for him, and his mother gave him her full support. For his role as Thisbe in A Midsummer Night's Dream, his mother made a blonde wig for him. When he played the cat in The Bluebird, she made a tail that he attached to his skinny frame. He was astonished and thrilled to hear applause for his performances. At 16, he left Liverpool College after attending for 2 years. His father wanted him to work as a clerk in a steel company in Liverpool. However, Rex received an unexpected offer from the Liverpool Repertory Theatre, which was known as the finest theatre in the country. The theatre often hired local youths with acting ambitions to serve as understudies and take small roles. Without hesitation, Rex accepted the opportunity. Over 3 years, he took on 50 roles in Liverpool theatres and during tours. One of his first performances was as the husband in a one-act play titled 30 Minutes in a Street. His opening line was, "Baby, fetch a doctor." He rehearsed it for days, but when opening night arrived, nerves got the better of him. Instead, he blurted out, "Doctor, fetch a baby." The audience erupted in laughter. I stood on stage, he recalled, asking myself, "What the hell have I said?" It took him several days to recover from that embarrassing start. By the time he turned 19, he had transformed from a shy boy into a more confident young man, and he found he was able to attract the attention of girls with little effort. He adopted a stylish long cigarette holder and wore a monocle over his bad eye. He also developed a taste for Scotch whiskey and jazz music, which led to him mastering the Charleston and the Black Bottom dance styles. At that time, he reflected, I didn't have a bean. I lived on rehearsal money. Rex decided to pursue his fortune on the London stage and told William Armstrong, the director of the Liverpool Repertory, about his plans. Armstrong advised him that it might be better to quit acting entirely. I thought to myself, Harrison remembered, what a rotten thing to say. Fortunately, he ignored the director's discouragement. Once he became established in London's theatre scene, Reginald landed the role of Jack and Charlie's aunt, touring through various English provinces. This success led to other roles in productions like Potiphar's Wife, Alibi, The Chinese Bungalow, and A Cup of Kindness. He later spoke about this period, saying, "I was able to play a different part each week during the formative stage of my career by going from one group to another. It's hard training, but it's acting, and constant acting can mean constant progress." The touring companies often traveled by night trains, moving from one town to another. The actors had to negotiate with landlords to secure decent accommodations at low rates, usually surviving on basic meals of sandwiches and tea. In a 1956 interview with Newsweek, he said, "It's unfortunate that more American actors don't get that kind of experience. It's a marvelous backlog for you to learn the hard way." In 1930, Rex made his film debut in The School for Scandal, a new adaptation of the well-known comedy featuring Madeleine Carroll. Later that year, he played a minor role as George in The Great Game. Neither of these parts hinted at a particularly promising future in film. However, Rex's West End stage debut came soon after, at the Everyman Theatre on November 26, 1930, in Getting George Married. He portrayed the Honorable Freddie Thrippleton. At that time, James Agate was the most influential theatre critic in London. Even a brief mention in his reviews was considered a significant achievement. Rex stayed up on opening night eager to read Agate's column. In the final paragraph, he found this: "Last night's play was a scratch affair, but it had one redeeming feature. A young man in it whose name escapes me seems to have a real talent for comedy." Rex was disappointed that his name was not mentioned, but it was clear who Agate was referring to. From here, he would spend 2 years making increasingly impressive appearances across the West End in a wide variety of plays. In 1934, the eligible bachelor married a charming Cornish woman named Noel Marjorie Collette Thomas, who preferred to be called simply Collette. The daughter of a retired British Army major, she was a French teacher and a competitive skier. After meeting him in 1933 and following their marriage, she would often travel to the suburbs to watch him perform. Collette was pleased when, in February 1935, he began a longer run at London's St. Martin's Theatre in Man of Yesterday. This provided him with a chance to bond with their son, Noel, who was born on January 29, 1935. Meanwhile, Rex appeared in 3 more films. In the comedy Get Your Man, he played a minor role as Tom Jakes. He was fifth billed as Ronnie in Leave It to Blanche, starring Henry Kendall and Olive Blakeney. In 1935's All at Sea, a romantic comedy, he portrayed the Honorable Aubrey Bellingham on the cruise ship SS Levantic, competing with the film star Tyrell Davis for the affection of Googie Withers. In November 1935, Rex took the stage at the Queen's Theatre in Robert Morley's play, Short Story. However, his big breakthrough came in the United States on March 2, 1936, when he played Tubbs Barrow in Sweet Aloes, a tearjerker written by Joyce Carey and featuring Evelyn Leigh. Though the play had enjoyed great success in London, it lasted only 24 performances at the Booth Theatre. Nonetheless, Rex made a huge impression on New York audiences, and suddenly he found himself in demand in the Big Apple. In 1936, producer Alexander Korda approached Harrison with a film contract worth £2,500 a year. Rex accepted the offer mainly for the financial benefits, rather than a strong desire to commit to filmmaking. During this time, he balanced his days acting in Korda's films with nightly performances on the stage. His first film under the Korda London Films contract was Men Are Not Gods. For Rex, this was significant, as it was his first screen credit that he personally acknowledged. He preferred to forget the so-called quickie quotas from earlier in his career. For his next Korda project, he starred alongside Vivien Leigh in Storm in a Teacup in 1937. When the film premiered in New York in March 1938 at the Little Carnegie Playhouse, it received a warm welcome from American audiences. Gradually, U.S. moviegoers began to take notice of the charming, angular Brit. Rex maintained a demanding work schedule, which was a major factor in the ongoing ups and downs of his marriage with Collette. Korda soon loaned him to the J.H. Hofburg Company for the 1937 bedroom farce, School for Husbands. In this role, Rex's character, a sophisticate, provides advice to husbands struggling with disinterested wives. His secret formula is to shower them with gifts and compliments. "I call it wife insurance," he states. Korda then assigned him to a project that London Films had held onto for some time, Originally titled Playboy, it was rebranded as Over the Moon and featured a screenplay based on a story by Robert Sherwood. Rex played a doctor who finds himself drawn to court a favorite, Merle Oberon. Unfortunately, the Technicolor comedy did not perform well in Europe and struggled even more during the US release, which came about 2 years after filming in December 1940. In the summer of 1938, Colette decided to leave for good, taking their son Noel with her. It seems unlikely that Rex had much time to miss them, as he was soon loaned to Mayflower Productions, a new company founded by Charles Laughton in partnership with Eric Palmer, known for the German classic The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. At Mayflower, Rex supported Lawton and Vivian Leigh in St. Martin's Lane, playing the role of Harley Prentice, a songwriter and socialite. Then in 1938, MGM brought him on for their second film shot at the British studios, The Citadel. Directed by King Vidor, this adaptation of A.J. Cronin's popular novel featured major star Robert Donat in the lead role, with Rosalind Russell as Christine, the caring schoolteacher wife of Donat's character. Though The Citadel received 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Actor for Donat and Best Picture, it did not win in any category. MGM thought highly of Harrison and offered him a 7-year contract, contingent on his relocation to Hollywood. He turned it down, however, as he had no plans to leave England at that time, especially with his career gaining momentum back home. The idea of working in America for 7 long years looked like an overwhelming prospect, but eventually Hollywood would find a way to seduce him. Rex Harrison's next role was alongside Valerie Hobson in The Silent Battle, produced by British Paramount in 1939. Similar to Alfred Hitchcock's The Lady Vanishes from 1938, much of the action unfolds on a train, specifically the Simplon Orient Express leaving Paris. In this film, Harrison plays Jacques Savant, a Secret Service agent for the fictional Balkan nation of Bosnia. That's Bosnia with an R, not to be confused with the actual Balkan nation of Bosnia. Alongside him is Dragiša Montescu, portrayed by Hobson, who has been coerced by the villain Bartov, played by Kay Seeley, into throwing a bomb at the Bosnian prime minister. Harrison's character stops her just in time, preventing an event that could have ignited a new world war, a theme very much at the forefront of the zeitgeist in 1938. The concept was fascinating, but it was poorly directed and has been mostly forgotten about today. As noted by Kinematograph Weekly, Rex Harrison is both convincing and interesting, if only he could find a picture to match his talents. In the same year, Harrison appeared in 10 Days in Paris, produced in England for Columbia Pictures. The film explored the theme of amnesia, a familiar plot device to audiences of the time, so much so that it likely sparked daydreams among young audiences wishing to forget this film. In most cases, that wish was granted as the film was another mediocre affair. By 1940, Harrison's contract with Korda had ended. Korda's plans for Hollywood did not include Rex, a situation that suited the actor just fine. Freed from any obligations, he would have likely taken on more projects, if not for the wartime shortages of time and resources. His sole film that year was Carol Reed's Gestapo, also known as Night Train to Munich. This espionage tale, also reminiscent of The Lady Vanishes and The Silent Battle, once again took place primarily on a train. The thrilling climax involved characters escaping into Switzerland via dangling mountain cable cars, all while under fire, a setup which would be often imitated in later action movies. Theodore Strauss of the New York Times praised Harrison, stating he was not only dashing, but expert as the British spy. It was becoming clear on both sides of the Atlantic that Rex Harrison, more than the established Robert Donat, was becoming the leading British male sex symbol in cinema. In the summer of 1940, amidst the ongoing Battle of Britain, Gabriel Pascal produced and directed Major Barbara, based on George Bernard Shaw's work, with the great Shaw himself providing the script and dialogue. During the filming, Shaw was often present on set, which allowed the cast to interact with him. Harrison agreed to star opposite Diana Wynyard in the West End production of S.N. Berman's comedy, No Time for Comedy. Among the supporting cast was the beautiful Lily Palmer, a 26-year-old Jewish actress originally from Germany. Their paths had crossed a year earlier while they were touring in different productions, but this collaboration allowed them to grow closer. By the time the play became a hit, the two were nearly inseparable. Years later, Lily would recall, he was very self-conscious, as all Englishmen are when they're attracted to a woman. She also noted a nervous habit of his. We went for a drive. He was wearing big fur gloves, and he was continually taking off one of his gloves to pull his nose. I watched him for a while and then said, "Let me pull your nose for you. It'll be easier and safer." In mid-1941, 33-year-old Rex Harrison departed from No Time for Comedy to join the Royal Air Force. Due to his poor eyesight, he was unable to fly and was assigned to the radar section, eventually becoming a radar instructor. The following year, Colette Harrison filed for divorce, naming Lily Palmer as co-respondent. The court awarded Colette custody of their 7-year-old son. On January 25, 1943, Rex Harrison married Lily Palmer during one of his rare short leaves from military service. At the time, Rex was 34 and Lily was 28. They moved into a home near Denham, but their new life took a frightening turn when a German bomb detonated about 50 feet away, partially damaging their house. They were inside during the explosion. Although debris fell from the ceiling, neither was seriously injured, though Rex did sustain a cut on his forehead. The couple welcomed their son Carrie on February 19, 1944, in Denham at a different house they had relocated to. Later in 1944, the RAF Film Unit set up operations at Pinewood Studios to produce an Air Force documentary titled Journey Together. Most of those involved in the project were members of the Royal Air Force or other Allied units, with Flight Lieutenant John Bolting as the director. Edward G. Robinson and Bessie Love were the only exceptions. War seemed to constantly linger at the Harrisons' doorstep, quite literally. In early 1945, they experienced a terrifying event when a German V-2 rocket exploded in their front yard. While glass shards from a smashed window landed on the baby's pram, little Carrie remained thankfully unharmed. As Axis forces in Europe began to retreat and the need for aerial radar teams decreased, he co-starred with Anna Neagle and Dean Jagger in I Live in Grosvenor Square. Directed by Neagle's husband, Herbert Wilcox, the film paid tribute to Anglo-American cooperation. The story revolves around a British Women's Auxiliary Air Force member of noble birth who falls for an American Air Force sergeant in London. Rex portrayed David Bruce, a British officer who not only loses his love to the American, but also fails in his bid for a seat in Parliament. Variety remarked on his performance, stating, "He is sure to impress American femmes in the service, even though the heroine jilts him." After his success with writing, producing, co-directing, and acting in the film In Which We Serve in 1942, Noel Coward launched his own production company, Cineguild. The third film he produced was Blithe Spirit. In this slightly diluted transition from stage to screen, Rex played Charles Condamine, a novelist who plans to write a book debunking fake mediums. To conduct research, he invites a local spiritualist portrayed by Margaret Rutherford to demonstrate her abilities in front of his wife and some friends. The medium accidentally summons the spirit of Charles's first wife, but only he can see her. When it's time for the ghost to leave, Rutherford unfortunately forgets how to send her back, resulting in the spirit remaining present for the rest of the film. This creates some rather unconventional tension, as Charles's current wife struggles to understand her husband's obsession with his deceased partner's ghost. In May and June of 1945, Rex toured military camps in England and Europe, including those in Germany, reviving his successful 1936 play, French Without Tears. Next, he was involved in The Rake's Progress. The film tells the story of Vivian Kenway, played by Harrison, an endearing but self-absorbed rogue. The narrative begins with his expulsion from Oxford University after a prank involving a chamber pot being placed atop the university's highest steeple. Following this, he travels to Brazil for a job arranged by his father. There, he engages in an affair with the owner's wife and is dismissed for his indiscretions. Vivian later marries an Austrian Jewish woman, played by his real-life wife, Lily Palmer, pretending to save her from the Nazis while ultimately cheating her out of everything, including her love. He also juggles a relationship with his father's secretary but ends up abandoning her, an event that leads to his father's death in a car accident. As World War II escalates and his past deeds haunt him, he enlists in the military and somewhat ironically meets a heroic end. Audiences were clearly captivated by Harrison's portrayal of the charming scoundrel. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times wrote, "For those who enjoy a characterization done with polish and subtlety, Mr. Harrison's portrait of the scoundrel will be a strange but intriguing display." Thanks to The Rake's Progress, Rex earned the nickname Sexy Rexy. There are different theories about how he actually got this label. Some attribute it to Walter Winchell, while others say Rex himself started it as a publicity stunt. However, in a 1972 interview with John Bradshaw of Esquire, Rex claimed that an unnamed English actress coined the term after he refused to sleep with her. He told Bradshaw, "It annoys me because I'm a more serious person than that vaudevillian label suggests." Harrison had received offers from Hollywood as early as 1936 when he was in the ill-fated Sweet Aloes on Broadway, but had turned them down. Interest in his talent grew, particularly following I Live in Grosvenor Square and The Rake's Progress. As Variety noted, to see Harrison's technique with glamorous girl after glamorous girl is to make one wonder where he's been all these years. Rex decided to provide an answer in person. In the fall of 1945, he signed a 7-year contract with Darryl F. Zanuck of 20th Century Fox. Meanwhile, Lily Palmer secured a short-term contract with Warner Brothers. And so the family were off to Hollywood at last. Rex Harrison recalled that Hollywood in 1945 was very exciting. Everyone was coming back from the war and the major studios were going full blast. Lily fondly remembered the glamorous parties they attended, saying, "I remember going to a party at the Rathbones, where all the walls of the main room were carpeted with gardenias. Parties where everybody seemed to be. Hoagie Carmichael on the piano, Judy Garland singing, Gable and Bogart drinking in the corner. After the war, everyone was only too keen to be lavish." Harrison's first American film was Anna and the King of Siam, in which he portrayed King Mongkut. The lavish production, though filmed in black and white, featured extensive sets that cost $300,000 to create, including 67 exteriors and 34 interiors designed in Rococo Oriental style. Bonnie Cashin's costumes alone amounted to $26,000, and the King's Royal State Barge was duplicated at a cost of $10,000. The coronation scene for King Chulalongkorn added another $80,000 to the budget. Rex immersed himself in research about Siam and its rulers. He later said, "I saw the amazing possibilities of creating a character I had never played before. I could try to leave Rex Harrison in England and become a Siamese king. It was the kind of challenge that actors like." Although Irene Dunne had the leading role as Anna Leonowens, the British governess who becomes the king's secretary and teacher to his family, Harrison's portrayal of the king became the film's standout performance. Critics praised him, stating, "Here is a new type of movie hero who demonstrates that the flexing of wits is more fascinating than the flexing of muscles." The film won Oscars for art directors Lyle Wheeler and William Darling, along with cinematographer Arthur Miller. Photoplay magazine recognized it as one of the 8 best films of 1946, and the National Board of Review included it in their list of the year's 10 best films. However, Harrison was overlooked for a Best Actor nomination, a category won by Frederick March for The Best Years of Our Lives. While Rex was gaining new fans, he was also upsetting the Hollywood press. One columnist described him as Boyer with an Oxford accent, suave, sophisticated, old-world sex appeal, a characterization that Harrison found distasteful. But that was only the beginning of his animosity with the Hollywood media circus. He dismissed requests for interviews from influential columnists like Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons, preferring not to engage in the publicity scene. He mockingly referred to that world as calling everyone darling. As a result, he earned a reputation as a snob with The Hollywood Reporter, stating, "We don't remember an actor, foreign or domestic, who breached so many rules of good taste in his conduct among fellow workers." The wonder of the whole thing is that Harrison didn't have his face bashed in. 20th Century Fox had no idea how to best utilize Rex after Anna and the King of Siam. His distinctly English persona limited his options. He turned down several scripts, including 13 Rue Madeleine, before finally agreeing to star in The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. Filming began on August 5, 1946 at 20th Studios, with Joseph Mankiewicz directing Philip Dunn's screenplay. In the film, Harrison plays Captain Daniel Gregg, a sea captain who has been dead for 4 years, rumored to have taken his own life to spare someone the trouble of killing him. It is said he haunts Gull Cottage in White Cliff, where Lucy Muir, played by the tragic Jean Tierney, who, by the way, we have a full episode on, linked on screen now. Most critics were charmed by his performance. The New York Sun wrote, "He makes a robust ghost, complete with beard and fiendish laugh. When he goes, audience interest goes with him. Following these somewhat ethereal roles in his initial American films, Harrison declared, "I had to convince audiences that I was in love with Irene Dunne without making love to her, and as the ghost in Mrs. Muir, I had to make passes at Jean Tierney without touching her. I'm going back to playing flesh and blood parts. Spiritual lovemaking is not exactly my cup of tea." Just as Lily struggled to find suitable roles at Warner Brothers, Rex now found himself stalled at 20th Century Fox. The studio had big American stars like Tyrone Power, Victor Mature, and Richard Widmark under contract. In this environment, Rex seemed out of place, and his talents felt mismatched with the studio's typical offerings. His best hope was to pick up roles that the main stars rejected, such as The Foxes of Harrow in 1947, a project passed over by Tyrone Power. Unfortunately, this film was not well received by the public. It was shot in black and white, 20th's reasoning being that without Power, it was a waste to spend extra on color, and featured a confusing mix of voodoo themes, soap opera elements, and strong-willed characters, played by Harrison and Maureen O'Hara. The story struggled to fit neatly into any genre, and audiences gave it a pass. His next project, Escape, directed in England by Joseph Mankiewicz, was based on a play by John Galsworthy. Set against a picturesque English countryside, it tells the story of Harrison's character, Matt Dennett, who accidentally kills a detective while the officer attempts to arrest a prostitute with whom he had been chatting. However, Escape also made little impact on American audiences. At this point, Harrison was itching for an exciting role, something to bring a spark to his life. However, he was about to find it off-screen, and the fallout from it would haunt him for the rest of his life. While in London for Escape, Harrison met Carol Landis, the stunning actress known in Hollywood as the Cinema Blonde, all one word. Having been married 4 times, Landis was known for being emotional and sentimental, a fact best displayed by her habit of wearing all her wedding rings on one finger. She was known for her struggles with depression, which made her more vulnerable, especially in the psychological meat grinder of Hollywood. Rex was seemingly enthralled by Landis. Nicknamed the Ping Girl for her effect on men, whose pants were said to ping whenever she entered a room. This was a nickname she despised. After Lily went to New York to film, Rex began dating Landis openly. In March 1948, following the completion of her films Noose and Brass Monkey, Rex and Carol returned to Hollywood together. At that time, Landis filed for divorce from her 4th husband, W. Horace Schmidlap, a millionaire Broadway producer, citing extreme marital cruelty. She likely assumed Rex would also file for divorce, but he did not. When he shared this news with her, Landis was devastated, but things were about to take a very dark turn. In June 1948, Rex starred in Unfaithfully Yours, an original story by Preston Sturges, who directed and produced the film. Sturges had previously signed a lucrative contract with the studio following his fallout with Howard Hughes. Harrison would later describe Sturges as a most extraordinary and ingenious creature, saying, "The whole thing was like a party. He directed in a red fez. He would have a Doberman pinscher on set with him. Before he would start, he would stuff a handkerchief in his mouth to stop from laughing." On July 4th, 1948, while still working on Unfaithfully Yours, Landis invited friends to her Pacific Palisades home for a pool party, but made sure they left early because she planned a quiet dinner with Harrison that evening. After dinner, Harrison left her home around 9 p.m. The details of their conversation that night remain unclear. Harrison claims they discussed their careers, and that Landis mentioned some financial struggles she was undergoing. Many, however, speculate that he ended their relationship that evening, which plunged her into a deep despair. The following afternoon, when Landis's maid, Fannie Mae Bolden, called Rex, he rushed back to her home and ran upstairs to her bedroom. After discovering her seemingly lifeless body, Harrison claims he tried unsuccessfully to find her doctor's number. Unable to reach anyone, he left the house and went home. In an interview with the LA Examiner on July 6, 1948, he said that he hurried home to contact his own doctor. He then called his friend Ronald Culver, who suggested he contact St. John's Hospital. The hospital advised him to call the police. Harrison explained, "The idea hadn't entered my head before. I just hadn't thought of police." A note addressed to Landis's mother was found next to her body, but it didn't explain why she had taken an overdose of Seconal capsules. When police arrived, many now allege they discovered another note, supposedly addressed to Harrison, that Landis had clutched in her hand. In her autobiography, Lily Palmer partially refuted this, saying that the actual story was that a policeman approached their lawyer after Landis's death, claiming to have a note for Harrison and offering to sell it for $500. After discussing it, they decided against the purchase, telling the officer to keep it and do what he wanted with it, figuring he wouldn't likely risk his career over such an act of spite. A short time later, the officer returned with an envelope containing what they believed was Landis's note. Inside, they found a crumpled piece of paper that simply read, "The cat has a sore paw. She must go to the vet." However, reports also suggested that in the early hours of the morning, Landis gathered every reminder of Harrison, photos and mementos, packed them into a suitcase and dropped them off at the home of her friend Ronald Culver, along with a note. Although there's no public record of Culver ever being interviewed by the police regarding this matter, it has been said that he burned the suitcase and the note. This tragic event became fodder for Hollywood gossip columnists, eager to take aim at the aloof Brit. Luella Parsons, no ally of Harrison, insinuated in her column that Landis, quote, had been deeply in love with the man who was forced to tell her that nothing could come of their romance. Lily flew back to Hollywood to attend Landis's funeral with Rex, which surely was an extremely difficult experience for her. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles deputy coroner instructed Harrison not to leave the city, as they wanted to question him further. He told reporters, "Her death is something to be deeply deplored, and should not be the subject of sensational innuendos." Later, he would admit, "I felt no guilt complex. No, none at all. But I did spend months afterwards going to psychiatrists, discussing the suicide with them, seeking the reasons for it. The plain fact is that Carol had a death wish." Having been legally cleared of any implications regarding Landis's death, the Harrisons prepared to leave Hollywood. By mutual agreement, Rex's contract with 20th Century Fox was terminated, and the furnishings in their Mandeville Canyon home were put up for auction. Before his departure, the actor shared his thoughts, saying, "Hollywood is done for. Hollywood and I have no future in common, and I don't know if Hollywood has any future at all. It's top-heavy in its internal and financial economy. It is so egocentric it doesn't know the rest of the world exists. And its social life is one of simply incredible, preposterous boredom. Hollywood is seriously ill. It is run by a coterie of moronic gossips, and it would hardly be going too far to say that Hollywood is in their power." In response, Hedda Hopper smoothed her ruffled feathers by declaring, "Rex Harrison's career is as dead as a mackerel." In the years that followed, Landis's family, especially her great-niece, Tammy Powell, expressed strong opinions about the circumstances surrounding her death. Powell wrote in a 2019 article, "I want you to know that my family has never believed that it was a suicide. We are 100% convinced that Rex Harrison is to blame for her death." While she stopped short of outright claiming that Harrison killed Landis, it is clear that she feels he bears responsibility for her passing. Powell presents compelling arguments and insights about Landis's mental state prior to her death. She notes that Landis was quite happy in the weeks leading up to her demise. She was preparing to return to England to work on a film and had many future plans. Powell also mentions that Landis's maid, Fanny, reported that Landis was, quote, "happy as a lark," the day before her death. Additionally, Powell argues that as a Catholic, Landis would never have taken her own life due to the fear of eternal damnation, although it's worth noting that she did not seem too troubled by the church's strict rules against divorce. The family believes that after Rex Harrison discovered Landis's body, he told Fanny that he felt a faint pulse but chose not to call for a doctor right away. Whether he truly felt a pulse remains unverified, but he did leave the scene without contacting a physician or the police. The family also criticizes Rex for allegedly lying about the nature of his relationship with Landis to the authorities. They claim that upon arriving at Landis's home, they found it in disarray, with drawers and cabinets open and papers strewn everywhere, along with some of Landis's photo albums and personal diaries missing. Did Harrison take evidence? Rumors suggest that in the early 1950s, Landis's police investigation file mysteriously vanished from the police station. The family suspects that Harrison may have bribed an officer to make the official records disappear. There has been much speculation and debate regarding what transpired between Landis and Harrison on the night of July 4th, 1948. However, the fact remains that only two people truly know what happened that night, and both are now gone. With the scandal erupting like a bombshell in Hollywood, the Harrisons relocated to New York, where Rex signed a contract to star in a new play. While rehearsing for Maxwell Anderson's Anne of the Thousand Days, Rex was hospitalized for a few days due to a stomach ulcer, as revealed by X-rays. After being placed on a bland diet, he recovered just in time to take on the role of King Henry VIII in Andersen's play, which opened on December 8, 1948, at the Schubert Theater. Among the attendees at the Antoinette Perry Awards for Broadway Excellence was none other than Hedda Hopper. She was asked to present the award for Best Dramatic Actor and stood at the podium holding the sealed envelope with the winner's name inside. As she opened the envelope, she read the name of the winning actor, Rex Harrison, her so-called dead mackerel. Despite her evident surprise, she managed to smile awkwardly for the cameras as she handed him the award. Lily Palmer fondly recalled this as a marvelous moment, a statement tinged with no little irony. After a 5-year absence from the London stage, Rex made his return in 1950 as Harcourt Riley in T.S. Eliot's The Cocktail Party. While in England, he penned an article for Picturegoer magazine, taking another shot at Hollywood. "A big Hollywood studio is a factory," he wrote. "It's an efficient, rather terrifying piece of machinery, bound by its own structure to turn out a set number of productions each year. In Hollywood, I played parts that I feel weren't right for me. I did the best I could, but I was often unhappy about the results. A deadly feeling of hopelessness and helplessness would overcome me." In November 1950, the Harrisons returned to Broadway to appear together at the Barrymore Theater in Irene Mayer Selznick's production of John Van Druten's Bell, Book, and Candle. They opened on November 14, 1950, and enjoyed a successful run of 233 performances. Time magazine noted, "Even in the fast company of demons, Rex Harrison provides a mere human being with dash." During the summer of 1951, the Harrisons put the finishing touches on a villa they built in the fishing village of Portofino on the Italian Riviera. They announced plans to spend as much of their free time there as possible. In August 1951, producer Stanley Kramer signed the couple for Columbia's film adaptation of Jan de Hartog's play, The Four-Poster. Upon their return to Hollywood, a studio spokesperson made it clear that, quote, "All is forgiven. All we care about is that Harrison is box office." In other words, we're not too bothered if you are implicated in the death of one of our other stars, as long as you are still making money. However, by the time the film was completed, the stage version of The Four-Poster was still running in New York with Hume Cronyn and Jessica Tandy, which delayed Columbia's release of their film until October 1952. Rex humorously explained the constraints imposed by the Motion Picture Production Code on the film's staging. "Both of us cannot be in the bed at the same time. I believe the ruling is that if one party is in the bed, the other must at least keep his foot on the floor, the same as in billiards." Afterward, the Harrisons enjoyed their time in Portofino, fishing, swimming, and taking speedboats to ride the waves of the Riviera. Rex maintained a friendly relationship with Colette, who lived nearby in a hotel with their son, Noel. The two wives and their children got along well enough, with Rex essentially overseeing both households. However, for reasons he couldn't quite articulate, he felt uncomfortable in Portofino, admitting, "I'm not really a countryman in the hearty sense." The Harrisons made a brief cameo appearance alongside other theater stars in Main Street to Broadway in 1953. This film, which should have provided an exciting glimpse behind the scenes of Broadway, turned out to be rather lackluster. In one scene, Rex and Lily walk along 44th Street discussing the idea of enjoying a 3-decker sandwich. The flimsy plot revolves around a small-town playwright, played by Tom Morton, who gets his play produced with assistance from notable figures like Tallulah Bankhead. Due to ongoing disagreements with her husband, Mrs. Harrison decided to take a trial separation. She once stated, "Let's face it, Englishmen don't like women, at least not in the way that Italians or Frenchmen like women. The greatest compliment Rex can pay me is to say that being with me is as good as being with a pal. He's a man's man, an Englishman." While Lily rested in Italy, Rex traveled to Hollywood, where he applied dark face makeup, wore Arabic robes designed by Marjorie Best, and played Saladin in King Richard and the Crusaders in 1954. This film, loosely adapted by John Twist from Sir Walter Scott's The Talisman, was directed by David Butler. However, it was largely considered tedious. The couple eventually reconciled and signed on to perform Bell, Book, and Candle in London in 1954. Following this, Sir Alexander Korda, who had previously made several ambitious film plans for Harrison that never materialized, persuaded him to star in the comedy The Constant Husband in 1955. The screenplay was written by Sidney Gilliat and Val Valentine, with Gilliat also directing and co-producing alongside Frank Launder. The story begins on the 5th of September when Harrison wakes up in a Welsh bedroom and wonders, "I wonder what I'm doing in Wales." He has no recollection of who he is or where he belongs. In this new adventure of an amnesiac, he questions, "Am I good or am I bad? Am I anything or anybody? I might be anything from an archdeacon to a confidence man." He eventually finds a psychiatrist who helps him track down his identity through a car rental agency, leading him to discover that he is known as Charles Hathaway. Upon returning home, he is warmly greeted by his wife, Monica, played by Kay Kendall, a chic fashion photographer he doesn't remember. But he decides to be friendly toward her before the truth of his past as a serial bigamist comes to light. The film premiered in America on NBC on November 6, 1955, amid much fanfare but ultimately disappointed and attracted little interest. Despite this, Rex displayed more than a little interest in Kay Kendall, leading some Londoners to joke that Rex and Lily's play was really Bell, Book, and Kendall. Soon enough, Rex and Kay were an item. On February 6, 1956, Lily filed for divorce in Mexico, citing incompatibility of character. She did not seek alimony but took ownership of the villa in Portofino, which they had named Villa San Genesio. She also gained custody of their 12-year-old son, Carrie. A few months later, she married actor Carlos Thompson. Back in New York, 20-year-old Julie Andrews was chosen to play Eliza Dolittle, while Moss Hart was tasked with staging the musical Lady Lisa, in which Rex would star. Cecil Beaton designed the costumes, Oliver Smith created the sets, and Hanya Holm choreographed the dances. The key to Rex, Moss Hart once remarked, is that he's not a frivolous actor. What he achieves, he gets from digging. Once I discovered this, I could forgive him a great deal. There were tremendous rages and stalkings off during rehearsals. The musical eventually changed its name to My Fair Lady and premiered in New Haven in February 1956. Rex made his Broadway debut as Professor Henry Higgins, a bachelor and phonetics expert, on March 15, 1956, at the Mark Hellinger Theater. Within weeks, tickets became nearly impossible to find, with scalpers demanding upwards of $50 for a seat. Producer Levin estimated that they would earn $5 million from the $400,000 production, plus another $3 million from the original cast recording on Columbia LP. Charles Laughton said of My Fair Lady, "In all my theater experience, I've seen only a handful of performances to match Rex's. He makes every man in the audience laugh at himself, and every woman laugh at the man beside her." On April 21, 1956, Rex was awarded his second Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical. During a break from My Fair Lady in February 1957, Rex joined Kay Kendall in Hollywood. At a party in the film colony, rumors circulated that Rex had slapped Frank Sinatra twice over Sinatra's interest in Kendall, rather brave given Sinatra's connections. Kay later explained that she had nearly complimented Sinatra on his shirt, and he had thanked her with a kiss, which had incensed Harrison. Despite the acclaim he received on stage as Henry Higgins, Rex was a lonely man. His son Carrie was attending an expensive British prep school, while Noel had transitioned from Olympic skiing to performing in European nightclubs. Lily was in Portofino with her new husband. His emotional refuge came in the form of Kay Kendall, whom he married in New York City at the Universalist Church of Divine Paternity at midnight on June 23, 1957. At 31, it was her first marriage, while at 49, it was his third. Like his previous wives, Kay was capable, beautiful, and full of life. However, she was carrying a dark secret. She had leukemia. Her doctors informed Rex that she had only 3 to 5 years to live, a prognosis they kept hidden from her. Lily later spoke about how Rex handled this agonizing information. Loving her, he accepted it. It must have been a terrible secret to live with, but he kept it. After nearly 2 years and 1,000 performances as Henry Higgins in New York, Rex Harrison left the show in 1958 to reprise his acclaimed role on the London stage. Before that, he filmed the Technicolor comedy The Reluctant Debutante in Paris alongside Kay. The film, adapted by William Douglas Home from his own play, revolves around Lord and Lady Broadbent as they seek a suitable husband for their daughter from a previous marriage. Time magazine remarked, "Actor Harrison still reigns as king of his wacky parlor empire, but an enormously talented queen has moved in close to his side." Many felt that Kendall, along with the sharp-witted Angela Lansbury, outshone Harrison, which was an unfamiliar experience for him. As a distraction for his talented, beautiful, but ailing wife, Harrison directed Kay in a play titled Bright One, which premiered on December 10, 1958, at the Winter Garden Theatre in London's West End. Unfortunately, the play flopped after just 12 performances. Rex gave his final London performance as Henry Higgins in April 1959. When asked if he would miss the role, he replied, "I doubt it. Actors are not made that way. I don't miss what I'm not doing." When questioned about the possibility of playing Higgins again, he quipped, "Yes, if I could take all the receipts home after the performance." Kay chimed in expressing her frustration, saying, "I haven't had a dinner with my husband in years." When asked about her favorite song from the show, she joked, "God Save the Queen." It's played in London right after the final curtain goes down. During the summer of 1959, while working on Once More with Feeling, Kay collapsed and was taken to a London clinic. There, doctors decided to maintain the ruse and told her a lie, saying she merely had complicated bronchitis anemia. Even though the effects of the leukemia were now evident, she was still completely unaware of her fatal condition. She apparently recovered quickly and returned to co-star Yul Brynner to finish filming the comedy. However, on September 6, 1959, she died in Rex's arms and was laid to rest in Hampstead Churchyard. According to Rex's agent, Larry Evans, when she died, he donated a large sum of money to the Cancer Research Fund, anonymously. I think the rot set in only after her death, and his departure from My Fair Lady. He was never the same after that. Due to a persistent bout of the flu, Rex was unable to attend the christening in London on September 27, 1959, for his first grandchild, Catherine Mary Lee Harrison, born to Noel and his new wife, Sarah. It was hard to believe that Sexy Rexy was now a grandfather, just as it had once been hard to imagine Marlene Dietrich as a grandmother. But the emotional turmoil following the loss of Kay had begun to age him. 3 months after Kay's death, on December 9, 1959, Rex debuted at New York's Anta Theatre in Lucien Hill's adaptation of Jean Anouilh's hit play, L'Hurluberlu. During the Philadelphia tryout, rumors circulated about Harrison's extremely difficult behavior, with him reportedly demanding both a new leading lady and a specially designed writing desk for the stage, among other temperamental moments. In August 1960, there were rumors that Rex was romantically involved with Tammy Grimes, who bore more than a passing resemblance to Kay Kendall. But Grimes stated, "Mr. Harrison and I are good friends, but more than that I cannot say." Rex then accepted an offer to return to Hollywood for a film. Upon arriving in the city he had vowed never to revisit for work, he said, "Yes, the place has really changed since I was under contract here. That was just after the war, when the boys were coming back. Hollywood seems much quieter now. There seems to be no big parties anymore, no real colony at all, but I like it here. I have pleasant memories of Hollywood on the whole." The film in question was Midnight Lace, a lavish thriller produced by Ross Hunter and starring Doris Day. Rex next returned to the London stage at the Royal Court, taking on the title role in Chekhov's Platonov. Rachel Roberts also starred in the production. The following year at the Edinburgh Film Festival, he appeared in the Nigel Dennis play, August for the People, again alongside Roberts, who played the love interest of Rex's character. He eventually withdrew from the play due to dialogue that had him denounce democracy as disgusting. Since he was a strong candidate for knighthood in the 1962 honors list, he stated, "I don't want to be in anything subversive." Rex would eventually have to wait until 1989 to be honored as Sir Rex Harrison. He then headed to Madrid for The Happy Thieves, a would-be comedy directed by George Marshall and based on Richard Condon's novel, The Oldest Profession. Rex's co-star was Rita Hayworth, who was married to the film's producer James Hill at the time. Unfortunately, the once iconic Hayworth had lost some of her former allure, and Rex was not the notorious gentleman he once was either. Time magazine noted with a bit of bite, Rita Hayworth, 42 when this picture was made, and Rex Harrison, 53, are both old enough to know better. In September 1961, Rex signed a contract with 20th Century Fox to portray Julius Caesar in Cleopatra, a film that would later be known as one of the most extravagant productions in Hollywood history, and one which almost destroyed the studio. He was promised a weekly salary of $10,000, plus expenses and a chauffeured limousine, along with billing above Richard Burton, but only if his knighthood came through. The chaotic production of Cleopatra is well documented, with enormous delays, bitter conflicts, and script issues creating a catastrophic production nightmare. Nearly a year into the Rome-based production, Rex was asked how things were going. He commented sarcastically, "My co-stars were giving each other black eyes, so there were long stops in the filming. Otherwise, it went swimmingly." On March 21, 1962, during a filming break, Rex Harrison and Rachel Roberts arrived at the City Hall in Genoa, Italy, ready to tie the knot. The scene was hectic, with photographers and excited onlookers all around. In an effort to secure some privacy, Rex grabbed a paparazzo's camera and smashed it against a wall. His request for a quieter room was eventually granted, and they were married in a ceremony translated into English by a lawyer. At the time, Rex was 54, while Rachel, the daughter of a Baptist minister, was 34 and had recently divorced in July 1961. Lily Palmer generously agreed to vacate the Portofino villa temporarily to allow the newlyweds some honeymoon privacy. The highly anticipated Cleopatra premiered on June 13, 1963, as a grand roadshow attraction. 2 months earlier, the notably unknighted Rex had filed a widely publicized lawsuit against 20th Century Fox, demanding equal billing with Richard Burton. He claimed that the studio was, quote, attempting to capitalize on the worldwide publicity Burton and Elizabeth Taylor have received. Rex lost the case and ended up with third billing. In 1963, Harrison received an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, but lost to Sidney Poitier for Lilies of the Field. Rachel Roberts was nominated for Best Actress for her role in This Sporting Life, but she was defeated by Patricia Neal for HUD. This was one of the rare occasions when a husband and wife were nominated for Academy Awards in the same year. In the Best Picture category, Cleopatra lost to Tom Jones, but it did win Oscars for color cinematography, art direction, costume design, and special visual effects. With the major troubles of Cleopatra behind him, Rex enjoyed a long recovery period in Portofino with Rachel, who described their marriage as a volatile piece. He said, "I can say without a second's pause that because of her, this is the happiest time of my life." When Warner Brothers acquired the film rights to My Fair Lady for a staggering $5.5 million, they at first approached Cary Grant for the role of Henry Higgins. Grant turned it down, saying that no one could portray the character like Rex Harrison. Peter O'Toole, who was the studio's second choice, also declined, leading to Rex being offered the part. After accepting the role, he commented, "I've been away from the part, you see, for more than 2 years, and by the time we start filming, it should all be fresh and new again." Filming began in mid-August at the Burbank studio, with George Cukor directing Rex in his 1007th performance as Higgins. The production had a budget of $17 million, which included $500,000 for costumes, designed by Cecil Beaton, and $1 million for sets, constructed on Warner's sound stages. My Fair Lady not only influenced American home decor trends with its use of wallpaper, but also grossed $32 million at the box office by early 1973, making it the 10th highest grossing film in Hollywood history at the time. Following My Fair Lady, which many consider the pinnacle of his film career, Rex traveled to Britain for MGM's The Yellow Rolls-Royce. In 1965, he went to Rome to co-star with Charlton Heston in Philip Dune's lengthy adaptation of Irving Stone's novel, The Agony and the Ecstasy. After wrapping up The Agony and the Ecstasy, Rex and Rachel took a vacation in Portofino, where he learned that he and Tony Franciosa had been recognized by California's Men's Apparel Club as the best-dressed man in films and television. They received this accolade for, quote, their salutary influence on the dressing habits of American men. The ever-stylish Greer Garson accepted the award on Rex's behalf. While Rex had previously encouraged his actress wives to pursue their careers, he now preferred that Rachel leave the professional spotlight to him. In February 1965, the couple announced plans to adopt a baby, expected to arrive that September. On April 5, 1965, the Oscar winners were revealed, and My Fair Lady had a stellar night. It took home the award for Best Picture, George Cukor won for Best Director, and Rex was awarded the Oscar for Best Actor by Audrey Hepburn, a former Best Actress winner for Roman Holiday in 1953. Discord in the Harrison household grew in the months that followed, leading to multiple separations and reconciliations. Their plans to adopt a child were ultimately scrapped, and in October 1965, Rex found himself in Venice once again, working with his close friend Joseph Mankiewicz. Mankiewicz wrote and directed The Honey Pot, a film adapted from Frederick Knott's play, Mr. Fox in Venice. While the recently departed Maggie Smith received much of the acting praise, Time magazine commented, "The sweetest moments come when Harrison is trading double entendres with his ex-mistresses, or pirouetting around his mansion like Nureyev on LSD. Unfortunately, the honeypot did not perform well at the box office." In July 1966, Rex was awarded the Golden Caravel Award in Genoa, recognizing him as the outstanding figure of the year in the motion picture, television, or theatrical world. The following year, he was named the National Honorary Chairman of the American Humane Association and led the organization's 53rd annual Be Kind to Animals campaign in Los Angeles. This honor came while he was in Hollywood filming the interior scenes for the $15 million production of Dr. Dolittle. Before wrapping up the Hollywood portion of the film and heading to England and the British West Indies for the remainder of the shoot, Rex and Rachel attended a party in Bel Air hosted by Irish actor Richard Harris and his attractive wife, Elizabeth. As the party continued into the early morning, Rex jumped into the pool in his undershorts, while Rachel dove in wearing black panties and a bra, showcasing that their relationship still had its playful side. However, Rex's attention was already shifting towards his next romantic interest. Several separations had already occurred between the Harrisons, and they once tried to mend their relationship by taking a Mediterranean cruise with Richard and Elizabeth Harris. Nonetheless, in December 1969, Rachel left Rex for good. During this time, Rex spent a lot of time with Elizabeth Harris, who was divorcing Richard Harris. On September 21, 1970, Rachel filed for divorce in Los Angeles, seeking a settlement of $1 million. She told the Los Angeles Times, "Rex and I were deeply in love, perhaps too much so. We may have burned each other out. The separation between us is very painful to me," she added. "I am an actress. Rex is a star. There is a big difference, you know." The divorce was finalized on March 1, 1971, with Rex gaining custody of Homer, their basset hound. On August 26, 1971, Rex married Elizabeth Harris at the estate of Alan Lerner in Oyster Bay, New York, much to the chagrin of his now former friend, Richard Harris. His fifth wife, the daughter of Lord and Lady Ogmore, was often described as a lush blonde by the press. At 63, Rex was 30 years older than her. When asked about Rex, Elizabeth said he was impossible and adorable. One writer humorously noted her luck in not having to replace her monogrammed items. In July 1972, Rachel sought a high court's intervention for unpaid alimony. By September, Elizabeth announced her intention to open a boutique in central London, stating she was tired of being a housewife. In October 1973, the Harrisons, Rex and Elizabeth, purchased a villa in Cap Ferrat on the French Riviera, where their neighbors included David Niven, Gregory Peck, and Odo Preminger. They also maintained their home in Belgravia. Rex declared that he was retiring from acting for the moment to focus on writing his memoirs for Macmillan in England. However, a few months later, he changed his mind and accepted various roles in London's West End and on Broadway. He returned to Cap Ferrat with Elizabeth and Homer, denying rumors of yet another separation. However, he and Elizabeth divorced in 1975. After a break from screen acting, Rex appeared in The Prince and the Pauper in 1977 and starred in the Hindi film Shalimar, sharing the screens with Bollywood icons Dharmendra and Zeenat Aman. He had small parts in Ashanti, The Fifth Musketeer, and A Time to Die, which was shot in 1979. This mediocre World War II spy thriller was his final film. In 1978, he married for the sixth and final time to Marcia Tinker. In 1980, despite having married twice since their divorce, Rachel made one last attempt to win Rex back. But it was in vain. Tragically, she took her own life later that year, mirroring the most shocking moment from Rex's past with Carol Landis. Rex passed away from pancreatic cancer at his Manhattan home on June 2, 1990, at the age of 82. He had been diagnosed with the disease only shortly before. The stage production he was involved in at the time, The Circle, concluded following his death. After his passing, his body was cremated. Some of his ashes were scattered in Portofino, while the rest were interred at the grave of his second wife, Lily Palmer, at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Alexander Walker noted, "In looks and temperament, Rex went back to the Elizabethans. They would have called him a man of passionate parts. His physique and looks were far more striking once middle age had literally stretched too smooth and callow a youthful face into a long, saturnine physiognomy. whose hooded eyes and wide mouth had satyr-like associations for some people. This unique appearance even caught the attention of the CIA. In 2019, former CIA Chief of Disguise, Jonah Mendez, revealed that Rex's likeness was used by several agents for undercover work. The molds of his face, larger than average, were made from aluminum and purchased from Hollywood film studios. She noted that his likeness took part in a lot of operations. According to Mendez, the mold served as a basis for over-the-head masks that the agency would create, with Rex's mold becoming the standard large size, effectively concealing the identities of many undercover operatives. Surely definitive proof that Rex Harrison truly was a man of many faces. That's about all for this episode. Please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's the biggest help you can give us. If you'd like some essays on other aspects of Hollywood, check out our tiers on Patreon and YouTube membership. Your support would be hugely appreciated, and you also get some fun stuff in return. And we'd like to thank everyone who already supports us. You guys make all the difference. That's all from me. See you next week. Sweet dreams.